consistent. Welcome to BB King's Lounge. Very glad to have you with us. Thank you for coming down. I know some of you have been here since bright and early, so I know you've been looking forward to this. As promised, we told you we'd get this in, and we're glad to have it for you here today. Anything you see that you love and you want to see it again, it will be on your TVs this evening and all day tomorrow. You can just select it and play it. So. To do the interview, a man who knows him extremely well, a man who you know extremely well. We can't do this cruise without him. He is the geeter with the heater. He is the boss with the hot sauce. Give it up for Mr. Jerry Blavitt. Looking good today, brother.
How about my main man, my man Jason, my big brother from my little mother? Well, I know you got the book. Thank you. Now maybe I can get back to Philadelphia that bought the book, right? There you go. But let me tell you, are you guys having fun? Right? Are you learning more about the artists that you never knew before? Isn't that a wonderful thing? And that's the great thing about all the folks that are associated with Malt Shop Memories Cruise. You're a family, and all of the artists that are a part of this become a family, and we thank you for that. And never forget, it's the music of America. Never forget that. The greatest country in the world is called America. It gave us an opportunity to raise families, kids, and listen to the music. Now, what can I say about this young man? You know, there are many groups, many artists that begin singing with groups. But this young man elevated himself. And as I said, Frankie and I were talking about Dion. It began with a group called the Belmonts out of the Bronx. You remember the Bronx, ladies and gentlemen? But then, just like Chuck Jackson, who began singing with the Del Vikings, Chuck went on to have a solo career. Tommy Hunt, who was singing with the Flamingos, went on to have a solo career. This is what happened with this young man. He had a unique sound, a unique voice, and a sensitivity when he sang his songs. He believed in them. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you our friend, Dion DiMucci. Yo. give him a yo.
Yo.
You on? Is it on? Hold on. Homebone.
He only sounds good on these things. I got to tell you, this is the pivotal player. This is the indispensable guy of the cruise. He's like the glue. He holds the whole thing together. The whole ship would fall apart if it wasn't for Jerry Blavitt.
Listen, let me tell you, my dear friend, you know, when we talk about the music, Dion, and what you have created, I mean, we're going to talk about all of the music and that stuff, but did you ever imagine that it would last this long, this music, our music?
You want to know, I'll be honest with you. No, that's the answer to the question, no. Here I am, 83 years old. I thought getting old would take longer. I told you. But this cruise, there's something special about this cruise. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's us that remained or something. I don't know, that we're very grateful. There's like so much gratitude. The people I've been meeting and talking to, there's so much gratitude and the generosity of their hearts and the way they extend themselves to me, and it's just crazy. I meet people wherever I'm, if I'm on the Lido deck or wherever I am on the ship, it's just crazy good. I just love this cruise. It's been my favorite so far.
You know, when we were kids, they had cruises, but they didn't have cruises with our music back then.
No, I tell you, I went to the gym yesterday, and they just had this loop of songs they were playing. Yeah. And I don't get to hear these songs much. I don't know where I live or in my house or whatever. But every song they played evoked a whole time in my life. And I thought, God, these songs are just they just embedded themselves in my brain and heart.
Music speaks for the human experience. You see, and that's the wonderful thing about our music. But you know, when you began with Freddie, Carlo, and Angelo as the Belmonts back then, I wonder why. How did that song go?
Well, you know, back then we didn't have any models. We didn't have any body to look to. You know, my mother loved Russ Columbo. She had an album, and my father, his two favorite people, and thank God he loved Louis Prima and Al Jolson. And that's all I heard in the house, you know, just the digolo. And everywhere I go, you know, the thing is that Louis Prima and they were rhythm singers. So I never really got to sing I never really identified or what I'm saying is I grabbed onto the rhythm of things like Louis Prima's a rhythm singer. He didn't hold notes like Johnny Maestro. You know, Johnny Maestro had an angel inside of him. He could hold notes like he was in heaven. You know, he used to, by the way, Johnny Maestro, in his show, used to do Runaround Sue, The Wanderer, and Ruby Baby. And I was on an interview one time, and they said, do you like the way Johnny Maestro sings Runaround Sue, Ruby Baby, and The Wanderer? I said, let me tell you something. He sings my songs much, 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 much better than I sing his songs. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? I can't even touch his songs. What am I going to 16 can? They throw me off the ship if I try that song.
You know, that's interesting because you recorded on a little label called Laurie Records, and we talked about the fact that back in the early days, all of the independent little labels came out and gave kids, young kids, an opportunity to be recording stars. But then there was a point, I guess, the album In the Still of the Night, which you featured all classic songs. In the Still of the Night, Where or When, That's My Desire. And if I remember, you and I spoke about this, that you really didn't want to do classics at that time, right? You wanted to do rock and roll, right?
Yeah, you know, listen, I put this group together, and I'm so humbled that I sang with them, you know, because Carlo was like a genius. I'm talking about Dion and the Belmonts. These three guys, I kind of recruited them from just neighboring little, you know, in the Bronx, you know, this block or that neighborhood, you know, just adjoining neighborhoods. But these guys were the best of the street corner singers. They just were the best. Angelo had a voice, he had perfect pitch, beautiful voice, you know, and you could hear it on That's My Desire. And Freddie was a genius at harmonies, and Carlo and I got to bring up rhythm because Carlo and I were he was a drummer. And, you know, I don't know how to describe this. We didn't know how to diagnose people back then. I think he was a savant because he could get on drums and play with Miles Davis and without practicing. I mean, the guy was just an incredible drummer, but he was a rhythmic kind of guy like me, and we would walk up and down the streets, you know, going da-da-da, but la-da-da-da-da-da-da, booty, ba ba-da-da-da-da-da-da, everything was written. It wasn't like, I can't do that stuff. I mean, I love listening to it. You know what I'm saying.
So I wonder why. And again, back to the album In the Still of the Night. It was one of the first times, even before the Flamingos did Flamingo Serenade, where they would take all classic music, okay, and put it out in an album. But back then, George Goldner, who owned Gorn and End, did a whole album on the Flamingos, all oldies, classics.
I love the Flamingos. My wife Susan is on ship. We've been married 60 years. Mm-hmm. I knew her 8 years before that. Right. And the statute of limitations can't touch me, but I robbed my first Flamingo record from Cousin's Music Store. It was a 45. And I gave it to her because I loved Would I Be Crying by the Flamingos.
Wow, that goes back to Chess Checker, even before Going and End.
Yeah, it
You're
was-
going early 50s back then.
Yeah, I was like crazy Flamingo guy. And I had to go up and get that. I didn't have the money, so I stole the record. And I said, "This is for you, baby. I'll love you for the rest of my life." You know, I was like taken with her. But I wanted to tell you, I finished answering that question. You know, Dion and the Belmonts got together, and we were imitating. We were hearing stuff, you know, around. There wasn't too much.
Right.
I loved Big Joe Williams. No,
Oh.
Big Joe. I'm sorry.
Big Joe Turner.
Big Joe. You know, the
Yeah,
shake,
yeah.
rattle, and roll.
Flip, flop, and fly.
You
I'm
know,
going to rock until I die.
I mean, those records changed my life. You know, I just never heard anything like that. You know, he was just. So that's where I was at. You know,
Right.
I mean, it was in my soul. Those records. I didn't know it was blues. I didn't know what you called it. You know, and of course, Little Richard. You know, Chubby and I were talking. He has great stories. Chubby Checker, man, what stories this guy has. And we were talking about like Chuck Berry, how I'm diverting, but how you know how he pronounced his words, like most of the people. Did he tell these stories the other day?
Yeah. Well, you know, Chuck wrote all of the things. So it's like what you've written things and you. So when you write a song, though, it's you, and you know immediately when you sing what it's about because you wrote it.
But he didn't sing black. He sang like he was a newscaster. You know, up in the morning and out to school. The teacher is teaching the golden rule. I thought he was Catholic. I thought he was. I thought he was a Catholic. You know. I was like, hey, Chuck Berry's Catholic. You know, he's teaching the golden rule. You know. But he would pronunciate his words. You know, 'cause he was from St. Louis. You know.
Yeah.
So anyway, Dion and the Belmonts used to make up all these sounds, and we put these songs together on the D train, you know, going back and forth from the Bronx to Manhattan, and then the record company. What they used to say back then to us is, you don't want to sing this kind of music because you want to get into something legitimate. They used to use the word legitimate music. So that's where Where or When came from, the song Where or When, because it was a Rodgers and Hart.
Right.
It was a proven
1936,
classic.
Babe in Arms. That's originally when it came out. And the other side, That's My Desire, was originally 1948 with Frankie Lane when he had the original. And then there was a great version by Earl Lewis and the Channels. Earl Lewis and the Channels. But you guys nailed it, man, back at that time. So then you leave Laurie Records, right?
We didn't really listen to anybody or try to copy anybody.
Right.
As a kid, I thought I sounded like Hank Williams because I fell in love with Hank Williams.
Yeah.
You know, and I had 50 Hank Williams records. I went crazy from age 10 to maybe 14. I just collected Hank Williams records. I was when I went on tour with Buddy Holly and Waylon Jennings. I mean, Waylon Jennings wasn't Waylon Jennings. He was just a bass player on the thing. Yeah. But I was singing them songs. They didn't even know a Hank Williams songs because I knew backsides and everything. So I wanted to communicate like Hank Williams, and I wanted to groove like Jimmy Reed. You know, got me running.
You got me peeping.
Got me hiding.
You got me hiding.
So we went into it like that. We made a bunch of songs. We started getting hits, and then the record company came up with this. You got to do something legitimate because this is not going to last. You know what I mean? I mean, that was the word they used, legitimate. You know, so you felt like illegitimate. You know what I mean?
Well, you know, Bobby Darin actually opened up the whole thing in '59 with Mac the Knife and the album That's All, where he went from rock and roll to, as you say, legitimate, because he wanted to get into nightclubs and he wanted to go into Las Vegas and all of that.
He was. I
Yeah.
love Bobby Darin.
But-
He
but-
was. What a guy to hang out with. I was going the other way. They were trying to get me into that. I could have went there because of Louis Prima and Al Jolson
And Russ Columbo.
You know, I could have went there, but I was trying to go. I was pulling the other way. You know, I was like, I wanted to go into the, like, blues. You know, that blues rock thing. You know.
Well, where did
more of
Run
a-
Around Sue come from?
Well, it's a Run Around Sue is kind of a cleverly disguised blues song.
Well, what about Ernie Moresco and you?
The Wanderer,
Right.
Ruby Baby, they're all blues songs, you know.
Well, Ruby Baby and Drip Drop, you nailed it because of a whole different feel. The original were with the Drifters, you know, and but you had that. You had that. I think that truly was the beginning of the blues sound for you that I heard differently than Run Around Sue. When I heard I got the that and that, it was Dion. It was a whole different sound.
Listen, I'm going to repeat a story. You guys probably heard this because I love telling this story because it's my favorite story. I was working the Brooklyn Fox with with Little Richard and Fats Domino and Chuck Berry and Jerry Lee, who was like crazy. And I'm coming back from lunch and I'm walking down to my dressing room in the back, and this lady who's sitting in Little Richard's room on the couch near the door says, "Oh, young fella," I'm walking by and she says, "Young fella." I didn't know if she was calling, but son. And I turned around. I said, she said, "Yes, you." She says, "Please come over here." So I walk over to Little Richard's room, and I walk in. She says she didn't get up off the couch. She was like sitting down. She said it was his mother. I didn't know it was his mother. It was Little Richard's mother, Leva May. She says, so I bend down and say, "Yes, ma'am." She says, "Son, are you the young fella who sings Ruby Baby?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "You got soul." so if Little Richard would have told me that, I would have forgot it. But his mother told me. It's like, and I would remind Little Richard all the time. You know what your mother said? Did she ever tell you?
But then Abraham, Martin, and John. I mean, that was a complete change in style back then, man.
Yeah, well, in the 60s, the country was in a very restless because of the Vietnam War and, the craziness that was going on,
We need that song more today
John Kennedy,
than ever before in
Yeah.
America. The spiritual side of people who live, and this is a very spiritual man, by the way. He has a certain soul. Sometimes we lose our path in life because of things that happen, because whatever happens. And your life changed into a way today that I see. Dion the rock and roller, Dion the star. But I see a very spiritual man in you when you and I talk at dinner at night. And it might be from Abraham, Martin, and John, but something in your life changed. Can you tell me what I explained?
No, if I ever told you what happened to me, I'd clear the room out. Everybody would just get up and walk. He's where's he coming from? I'll be honest with you. I'll tell you what happened. This is crazy. I was drinking and drugging in the mid-'60s. And in 1968, February, I used to hang out with Frankie Lyman, and he died of an overdose. And
26 years old.
and it just rattled me. Yeah, I lost him, and it rattled me. I was shaken. I was like he like disappeared, and I went out. I was married at the time. It was 1968. I was 28 years old. I was I went out jogging, and I thought, I have to stop this. I have to stop doing what I'm doing. You know, this is, I'm going to die. And you know, he was just it was evident. You know, it was right in front of me. So I'm about in the 4th mile, and I uttered the words, God, it would be nice to be closer to you. And Christ appears in front of me, like just like this beautiful, ethereal figure that, I mean, it wasn't like human, like, you know, it was just heavenly beautiful, you know, and I knew who it was. I never went to church. I didn't know God from a hole in the wall. But, you know, I grew up in an Italian neighborhood, and Mount Carmel Catholic Church was the hub of Little Italy, you know, in the Bronx. And, you know, I heard some things, but I didn't know anything about God, or that you could know him, or he was real. You know, to me, it was like he was like George Washington. You know, he lived, he died. That was it. You know, I didn't know. So anyway, this illuminating my mind, and this peace and forgiveness, which is fading away in this country. The idea of forgiveness is, I don't think people understand what that is anymore. It's like it's fading away, you know, with all this woke stuff, you know. It's like they got these perfect people walking around pointing their finger at people. And they don't know how flawed they are, you know. So why am I diverting? What happened is I said this, but I said, God, it would be nice to be closer to you. Being this beautiful revelation comes to me, and I feel all this peace and wonderful serenity and things I never, you know, there were words to me, but I never understood them. Like I never understood the word peace or love. I knew I was loved, but I never felt it like that. I just never felt it as deeply as I felt it at that moment. And all of a sudden, everything got like the world became technicolor to me. It was before I uttered the prayer, but all of a sudden it illuminated it, and I heard this big crashing back at me like an oak tree fell, and I turned around to see what it was, and there was nothing there. It was like this weight fell off my back or something, and I ran right into this vision, this person. I mean, right into it. And I kept jogging, and I ran home, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I think something happened. I feel different, you know. I felt, so I run into my house, and I run in, and I said, Susan, I said, Jesus is alive. He's real. And she looks at me like I'm Moses coming off the mount, you know, like I came off the mountain with the tablets. Like, did you run too much or what? So anyway, I said, no, he's alive. And she waits, and she looks at me, and she says, who doesn't know that? I said, why didn't you tell me? She said, she says, yeah, like you're going to believe me. You know what I mean? So anyway, the whole point of the story is I've never been the same. I've never been the same because I know there's a...
You smell the roses.
And you got to understand, I went into, it's funny, I ran to the Bible bookstore. I got a Bible. I read the whole thing through. I was like, I didn't come out of the house. I wanted to read it. I became interested in history, which I never was. I couldn't care less about history. But now I knew there was a people of God from the very beginning, from Genesis to now. I knew that. So I wanted to know about these people. So I'm reading and I'm reading. I didn't come out of the house. So I go into AA. A guy tells me, he says, you should come to a meeting with me. I go, hey, this is a funny story. First time I step into AA, I grab this guy's hand. We're going to say like the Lord's Prayer. It's called, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. So he says to me, I'm not saying this prayer. He says, I'm Jewish. He says, that's a Christian prayer. So I'm like, I got these cards with me and everything. And I said to him, oh, well, could you tell me what's Christian about it? I give him the prayer. So he said, I didn't even know this guy. He had a handlebar mustache. Beautiful guy. We became great friends. So he's reading the prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom. He reads the whole prayer. He goes, I don't know. I said, you know where that prayer comes from? He says, no. I said, well, there was this rabbi. And he was teaching these 12 Jewish guys. And these 12 Jewish guys asked him, they said, Rabbi, could you teach us how to pray? And he said, pray like this. Our Father who I said, it's a Jewish thing. Maybe I should be bothered by it. I don't know. So it's, you know what I'm saying? There's one God. Even atheists know that.
After the conversion, you're back into the studio and you're recording, and everything that you're doing is just so much better in your life. And then you pick up on the blues. Well, you always love the blues, okay? But
it's very biblical.
The way,
I'm
right?
serious.
It's true.
It's very blues. It's very biblical. Go. I'm sorry.
No, but you are right. But then I love bop shoo bop, which you do. There's certain songs I play on the radio that nobody plays. Bop shoo bop, hug my radiator stuff. But I love the blues things that you do. Sonny Boy Williams made all that. Jimmy Reed. Did you always want to do that? And Laurie never gave you the opportunity to do that.
Everybody here is going to agree with this, man. When I was a kid, when I was 11 years old, and I first heard Hank Williams, or I first heard Jimmy Reed, or I first heard the Channels, or like even when I heard them do Maybe,
the Chantels.
Or the Chantels, yeah. Or the Channels doing...
and the Dubs, Could This Be Magic? Don't Ask Me to Be Lonely.
You're talking about songs that hurl you into a place of enchantment. How many times in the last 3 years have you heard the word enchantment?
Never. And there was a song by the Platters.
You want to know something? Enchantment is it's a place of delight and pleasure. And when I was a kid, I was hurled into this atmosphere of enchantment. And all my life, I'm 83, and I'm still trying to get my hands and heart and mind and voice and spirit around something where I could, just infuse or, give that happened to me when I was 11 years old. I want to give it to somebody else.
Give it back.
I want to
give it back, yeah. But you do, Dion, when you are on stage.
Because it's something that you can't explain. You hear the song, right? You hear a song like "Could This Be Magic," and it goes in you, and it goes down here, and it makes a right, and it comes up, and then it goes across to your heart, and then in your head. Yeah, how are you going to explain it? You can't explain it. It's enchantment. And you want to infuse that into, I want to capture that in some way to just help other people experience it. And that's what I'm very easy to figure out. I've been doing that all my life, trying to get a song like that so other people could experience what I experienced when I was 11. I never got over it.
Yeah. Well, music speaks for the human experience. It speaks when you didn't know how to express yourself to a girl. Hey, listen to the guitar. He's playing our song. I only have eyes for you. So when a kid didn't know how to express himself, our music, your music, what you have created is the legacy of Dion DiMucci, a man that has lived a life. We all have our ups and downs, and by the grace of God, you continue to do what you do. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And these people all know about it because you've all experienced at a certain age the hardships, the aches, the pains, raising kids. And music is the purifier. Music will cleanse the hurt. Music will make us better human beings. And I only wish that young people today, Dion, would have what we had.
Well, he's talking about like me having this gift. You got to hang out with him. I mean, if anybody has the spirit, this guy's off the wall. I mean, he's got a triple portion. I don't know what. God has blessed you with an abundance, a spirit of abundance. You certainly don't have a spirit of scarcity, my man. It's like a well that don't run dry, I'll tell you now.
All of the years that we've known each other, all of the other artists are no longer here. Maestro, the Skyliners, all of the wonderful Ronnie Spector. There have been so many artists that have been on these cruises. And one thing, even though they're gone, we talk about Chuck and Fats, that music will never be gone. And Dion DiMucci, you will never be gone. Your music, and when you see this man perform, ladies and gentlemen, he is in another world. He is in another world. You just bring these people into your world.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody here. I don't know how long we're going to stay out here.
We got what? We got to wrap it up right now? We got to wrap. Listen, you and I look, well...
I'm not going anywhere.
Well, listen, I can't go anywhere. We're locked in.
But I don't know. I don't know who gets this place next.
Wait, let me ask you a question. For the director, can we give us 5 more minutes? Okay. We can continue now. We don't have the rap.
I'm telling you, this is a really special cruise. I got to say it again. I don't know what it is. It's hard to explain. But the people who have made this particular cruise, I don't know, maybe it's what we've all been through, that I feel like we're all on the same page in some way, and which is love and giving and caring and all that kind of stuff, and
we never had
appreciating each other.
We never had the opportunity back in the day. When we're doing the Brooklyn Paramount or you're doing all of the shows, you saw the audience from a distance. You're living with these people. They see you. They see you in a different light.
I can't tell you. They grab your arm and they pull you down. It's like, come with me.
Listen.
It's like okay.
I lost my ring by them hugging it. By the grace of God, I found it underneath the stage. So, you have no idea, folks, on these cruises what you do for the artist. You give them the love. We never had this before, this close to an audience. You did the show, you got in the bus, you did another show, you did another show and another show. And tell me about Hug My Radiator.
I'd rather tell you about something else. I'd rather tell you.
Go ahead.
Hug My Radiator. I wrote that song on the bus when I was on the bus with Buddy Holly, and we had radiators. Now nobody knows what a radiator is, right? You hugged your what? But what I wanted to talk about is Darlene Love. Here's a girl. Yeah. When we were kids, man, and she sang "He's a Rebel," I was so crazy. This is before my godly experience. I went. Hey, she's singing about me. You know what I mean? The hell is she singing about me for? I'm that guy. But he's a rebel. Sure, the boy I love. Do run. I mean, we all looked at her when we were kids. we were like, she was the bomb. She was like head of the crystal. She was like queen of rock and roll to us. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I wish Phil Spector would have put a name on it, but it was just the crystals. So it's so good to be, when I hear the name Darlene Love, I don't want to come out of the house. I mean, she's like, she's got these great records, and she's one of the, it was like, to me, it was like Aretha Franklin, Whitney Houston, and Darlene Love were like the greatest singers of the 20th century.
He called me, we're very close, he called me, he said, Gator, man, this cruise, Darlene Love, you, Frankie Avalon, man, I can't. And listen, he doesn't work. He could be working every day of his life. But he said, man, I got to do this cruise.
It's fun.
Well.
Man, I haven't eaten for a half hour.
Yeah, you know what I love about him? He really is a street kid. Do you agree? What's on his lung is on his tongue. I'm telling you, that's street talk.
You guys are special, really.
Well,
appreciate it. Hey, how about that Peter Noon? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, he's like, I was watching him and I was saying, he's a boy. He's like, how old is he? He's a boy. Was he 13? Yeah, he's 13. He could say anything he wants. I know, God, we can't do what he does. I mean, if we ever said what he does, they'd throw us off the ship. I mean.
Well, we got the cue again. Well, but guys, we're on the ship. You can come on up and do whatever you want. But remember, he represents the music that you grew up with, the music that is so important today. Never forget, it's about the music. Never forget the contribution that all of these artists have done. And Dion DiMucci, ladies and gentlemen. The greatest.
Thank you, guys.
I'm Little Anthony from Little Anthony and the Imperials. Join me on the Malt Shop Memories Cruise.
The Malt Shop Memories Cruise is heading back out to sea in 2023. This is going to be one party you won't want to miss. You'll see live performances by rock and roll's biggest stars, including The Temptations, Little Anthony, Jay and the Americans, The Lettermen, Al Jardine, founding member of the Beach Boys and his Endless Summer Band, the Bronx Wanderers, Peter Asher, the Vogues, the Skyliners, the Contours, the Elegants, the Reflections, Linda Gale Lewis, sister of Jerry Lee Lewis, Bobby Wilson, Winter Dance Party, the Everly Set, celebrating the Everly Brothers, of course our main man, MC extraordinaire Jerry Blavat, and many more surprises to be added. We're sailing back to the best era in music, October 28th to November 4th, 2023, on Holland America Line's New Amsterdam, leaving Fort Lauderdale and making ports of call in Aruba and Curacao. Pack your favorite poodle skirts and Letterman jackets and get ready to relive your favorite memories while creating unforgettable new ones. All the live music, the dancing, the Q&As and interviews, and all the fun you're experiencing this week will be back next year for 2023's greatest rock and roll party at sea. Don't forget, as a valued 2022 guest, you're eligible for the lowest cabin pricing for next year's cruise, but it's only available when you book on board during this trip, so don't wait. Our friendly sales staff members are located in the Hudson Room on Deck 3 this week and are happy to assist you with your 2023 reservation. The Malt Shop Memories Cruise just keeps getting better and better, so be sure to join us in 2023.
Don't miss the boat.